Hi, Mitchell here. So, today you are wanting to know how to beat every single, or win every single race, I should say. Well, that's actually easier than what a lot of people think. And it's like, well, what do you need to be able to do is the better question to win every single race. With cars, we talk about thrust to weight ratio. And with this, there's two ways to approach this with a car. One, you increase the power of the car, which will give it a greater thrust to weight ratio, or you can strip down the car, reducing weight, which will give it a greater weight to thrust ratio. Now, broadly, statistically, what you will see is distance runners will focus on more of the stripping down of body weight rather than the building up of muscle, and sprinters will work on building more muscle rather than the stripping down of body weight. But these are two tools that you can use to kind of fine-tune and it's not thrust to weight like a car. What it's known is calories per pound. Calories per pound. Now, this ratio, what you need to know to figure this out is your body weight and how fast and long you've ran, but more specifically, how fast. So this can be done in miles per hour, kilometers, but mainly as your weight goes up, your calorie burns per hour ratio goes up. Now, I said ratio for a reason. A lot of people only focus on, oh, how many calories did I burn in 1 mile? And then it's like, well, how many did I do in 2? But what we want to look at is, at what rate were we burning calories for calories per hour at that mile rate? So let's say we were burning 124 calories for 1 mile at 10 miles an hour. Well, for a single mile it was 124. But if we ran a whole hour at that speed, we would have done 1,240. Well, we can only maintain that for 1 mile, but we need to know that calorie per hour rate. Now what we do is we take 1,240 divided by our weight, 160. And I'll just show that right here. So what we will literally do is go 1,240 divided by 160. 160. So that gives us a calorie per pound ratio of 1.75. So this number is very important. Now here's the interesting thing. Let's say we had a different poundage. And it's like, okay, now we're down to like 120. Okay, but then we would be burning probably around 95 calories per mile, and then take that times 10, 950. And then, this is kind of like off the head. But the thing is, since the weight and the calories per hour are almost virtually locked, what happens is the calories per pound ratio kind of levels out. So, okay, here's another way to put it. Let's say you have two runners. One is 130, one is 160. Okay? They're both burning different calories per hour rates, but if they both cross the finish line at exactly the same time, they were outputting the exact same calories per pound ratio. Now, could one run faster than the other? Sure, possibly, but when they both finish at exactly the same time, start and finish at exactly the same time, even though they have a 30-pound difference, the fact that the weight and calories per hour are relatively locked, when you do the calculations of their speed and calories per pound, it will be identical. So, just like horsepower or weight and thrust ratio for cars, we have calories per pound or calories per kilometer. So there's only two ways that we can actually actively affect this, just like a car. We can strip down our bodies of fat, and then eventually a lot of people start cannibalizing their muscle fibers and lose weight, or we can focus on getting stronger and gaining more muscle. Those are the two options. There really isn't any third. There may be some ones that we can't control, like your body may increase or reduce some fluids here in their body, but you can't actively control that. You can actively control your weight and how much muscle you gain. So, how do we figure out this stuff? Well, here we are on Google, and if you just go treadmill calorie calculator, this is the one that I like to use right here. So, the way that we would figure this out is this. We would go, we just ran 3 miles, 17 miles an hour, okay? So, we'd go grade 0, speed 11, and if you need to figure out figure out what your miles per hour is, I'm not going to be doing that in this video because I assume you can tell how fast you went miles per hour off your time and your distance. So I am assuming that you already know how to do that. So we know that our speed is right at 11 miles an hour. This will put us at a 17-minute 3K. Now, instead of putting in 17 minutes here, we want the entire hour rate. So we're going to put 60. And then distance, for this calculator, you either put it in time or you put it in distance, but you don't put it in both. So we're just going to leave distance blank. And now I'm going to go 160. Okay? It does some fun stuff. Scroll down a little bit more. And it spits out our calorie rate. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our calculator. I am going to take this number down here, which is 1362.7 divided by my weight, 160. And we turn up with a 8.51 calorie per pound ratio. Now, and if we went faster, let's say we went a tiny bit faster, okay? Instead of doing it at 11, let's do it at 11.5, okay? So now we have a brand new number, 1421.2. Well, my weight's the same, divided by 160. It hates doing the ones. Like, it makes no sense why it doesn't like to do the ones. Okay, and now we have a ratio of calories per pound of 8.88. But notice how it went up. When we were running at 11 miles an hour, it was 8.51, and now that we're running at 11.5, it's 8.88. So that is the important part right there. That is what you need to be able to understand and how to start targeting on what you need to do in a race. Let's say you go to a race and you know people are running it in roughly a 17-minute or a 16-minute. You can go, okay, how many calories per pound ratio do I need to have? Well, and then you go, how long can I maintain this? For some people, they may not be able to maintain this speed for more than 800 meters, a mile. Well, then there's still 2 more miles left. Well, how long can you maintain this calorie per pound ratio, this energy output? Because as you change in your body weight, it's going to go up and down, the ratio. So some days when you fast a little bit more or you're a little bit more dehydrated, you may naturally run faster just because it's throwing off that ratio ever so slightly. But it wasn't a good day. Maybe you're just dehydrated a little bit more than what you usually were. But you just, since you didn't have 2 or 3 pounds, it changed that ratio and now you had a really good day of the season. Well, that ratio is what is the important part. And you don't hear about calories per pound ratio very much. But how far can you take this? And you can go... So this is how far you can take this. what we have here is mileage and then the calories per pound ratios. And we can tell how far or how long. No, it's not even a question of distance because that changes. It's more of a question of like time, but yeah, I understand this is set for miles, but you want to be able to think about it more like this. How long could you maintain a 9 calories per pound ratio? Can you maintain it for a quarter of a mile, half a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles? And that's where this is. It's like, so I fill this in from time to time. I don't keep it terribly accurate, but you can go, oh, if I wanted, how long can I maintain a 9? Here, let me blow this thing up so it's bigger for you guys to see. View. There we go. So how long can I maintain a 9 calories per pound ratio? Well, 3 miles. Would I be able to push it out to 4? Well, that's going to be pushing it. Have I done it yet? Well, let's see. But if I was going to do a 4-mile run, I would want to have a ratio that was around 8.6. Well, again, since your energy per hour output is directly tied to your weight, you can start going, how many miles per hour can you run and maintain it at? And what can your competition do? Well, now, if you put this down to calories per pound, you can go, gee, people that are running this race are able to do 3 miles at a ratio of 10. Well, how long can I maintain a ratio of 10? Only for a quarter of a mile. So I better get good at doing it for 9.5 and extend this thing out and build up the strength, or get lighter to be able to extend this for at a ratio of 9.5 for longer. Once I get good at that, now I should start trying to focus it to get it more at 10, like my competition. But again, it's only a question of getting lighter and building up muscle. That is it. And the one thing that I'd like to point out is, very rarely in mechanics is the lightest car or plane the fastest. It's almost never the scenario. Now, distance running, there's energy efficiency and things like that, and that changes things up. But in shorter distances, more power almost always leads to the winner. In races, in cars and planes, the one that has more power wins. But they don't have the same energy issues that we have. And that's where we have to start adding that in for longer distances. But as far as shorter distances, the more power, the more calories per pound. And I've actually, I don't think I have it here, but I've actually checked Usain Bolt's calories per pound output, and I think it was around 30 calories a pound. But again, it's only for like 9 seconds that high level is being maintained. But that's the burst of energy output that he does and can sustain. And I think he's 206 pounds when he did a lot of those records. So we know how fast he did in miles per hour. We know his weight, and we can therefore figure out his calorie per pound ratio that he did for the 100 and the 200. But then at the same time, we can look at the marathon distances. Like right here. So Ken does just under 10 calories per pound for the marathon. And if my numbers are right, 9.96 calories per pound. But he's able to maintain that for 2 hours. Well, if you wanted to try to get up to that, well, you need to make sure that you can do roughly 10 for 2 miles, for 3 miles. And then, yeah, you may be taking breaks or not, but then now you're trying to extend that out longer. So now you're trying to extend that from 2 to 3, from 6 to 10 to 13. Try to extending out how long your body can maintain that ratio. And once you can maintain that ratio, yeah, you should be able to match him. But it all comes down to knowing what is your competition's speed, their weight. Well, you actually don't even need to know their weight. You just need to know their time, their speed, and you can figure out how many calories they're burning per hour at that rate. And now you can go, where am I at? And now you know what you need to do to get yours at. But here's one of the fun things too that's kind of going on with this thing too. If you take a lot of this data, notice this kind of curve. What would you think that curve is? Would you think it's muscle strength? Or would you think it's lactic acid buildup? It could be both, depending on which one is the weaker of the two, so it can kind of fluctuate. But the thing is, when you do calories per pound, you have this kind of a slope. When you take this data and you put it into just the straight up raw calories per hour ratio, so instead of figuring out calories per pound, this is just the calories per hour. But how long can I maintain these calories per hour for like 1 mile? Close to 15. For a 5 mile, 1360. For half a marathon, 1180. But see how that curve is still there? Is that showing lactic acid buildup and the respiratory and circulatory system not being able to keep up? Or is that a sign of muscle fatigue? But then I go, well, for me, I go, there's certain things that it could be either one, and there's certain things that you have to do to figure out which one it is. But there's no research on that I've ever been able to find, so I'm not going to share my opinion on it, but I do have opinions. But kind of through trial and error, I think that anybody can kind of figure out what is what, and they have to focus on what is going more. Is their breathing going crazy, or is their muscles doing more of the stress? Where's the stress at? I think that's the better way to tell. But then we can go one step further too. That same curve. Speed, distance, there's the curve. Is this curve showing muscle fatigue? Lactic acid buildup? A failure in the respiratory and circulatory system? Just a little thing to kind of keep in mind. But as you build up more ability to deliver more calories per pound ratio, you can build it up and you can extend it out to train to do it longer. That's really it. But it's just kind of one of those things that isn't talked about very much when it comes to wrestling. I mean, when it comes to wrestling. Where was I going to say wrestling? When it comes to running. So, what are your ratios? What are your differences per distance? So your 1 mile versus your 3 versus your 5 versus your 8, your 10, your 13. What are those different calorie per pound ratios per one? And then what you'll kind of see is as you improve in one, you'll start to improve in the others, just naturally. So it's just kind of a little thing to kind of keep in mind. So now you can go for any race. How fast are the people that usually show up to this race? How fast are they? Okay, I need to match at least that to keep up with them. But if I want to win the race, I need to put out even more than that to win the race. Can I currently maintain that calorie per pound ratio to win that race? And there's your answer. You either can and you're good to go, or you can't and now you need to start focusing your training to get that calorie per pound ratio up higher. But calorie per pound is one of the least talked about things that's out there. I hope you enjoyed the video. Here's a video that I had about metabolic rate, and there's a lot of people that don't quite understand how the ratios of it work. Actually, as you are heavier, you actually have a higher metabolic rate because you have more cells to feed, and as you get lighter, you have less cells, so your metabolic rate goes down. But people magically get this inversed. That's the video on that one. VO2 max, why it's pretty bad, and how I like to use heart rate monitoring and just a regular old watch to record my heart rate every mile, how that data is way more powerful than just having a VO2 max of 54, 56, 58, 60. How do I use that in training? I have no clue. But if I have an exact heart rate per mile at different speeds, how I can actually develop a program off of that. So why I actually told people it's just straight up worthless. Don't even do it. How to apply your training to kind of like I should have called it like apply it like snake poison, because how you can easily overtrain and just break yourself. You need to do it more gradually and lighter, and you can just keep on going and going and going. But if you push too hard, you're just going to break yourself. Just like if you got bitten by a snake, you would just be in trouble. But if you take like a few drops, yeah, but you're going to be okay. And that's how people build up a resistance to snake venom in the real world. And then I have another video here that's, well, I guess, oh man, I guess these three were really good. How cardio builds cardio, so you don't have to run all the time. How you can do other cardios to actually improve your respiratory and circulatory system, because that way you aren't just always running, and your knee joints are getting time to rest. Your ligaments and tendons, your muscles have time to rest. So this cardio building cardio is a really good one. How to kind of muscle is a warship, and then peeing. Are you over drinking water? Are you under drinking water? When should you do what? Those are just a few good videos that I wish got a little bit more attention. Here on BitChute, they love these things, but YouTube doesn't like it. Rumble doesn't really like it, but BitChute, you guys love me, so thank you. If you guys have any questions or want me to do a video on something, put it down in the comments. Feel free to reach out. And it's getting hot out there, so make sure you are hydrated before you even go outside. And because like today it's going to be a record heat area in my area, and so just make sure that you're hydrating. Okay, be safe. Drink a cup of water, drink 2 cups of water before you go run, just so you have it in your system. It may slosh for a little bit, but your body will absorb it, especially this time of the year. So just be safe out there, and I'll see you next time.